part 2 of this video series is going to show you how to take your really simple Flask application and add some CSS to it. And so before I start to add the CSS, I am just going to make there to be like a little bit more text in my index.html. So instead of just having a paragraph tag here, I'm going to get rid of this div. We don't need it for now. And inside the body, let's also have a header tag. This should actually be indented so that it looks nice. And so let's make an h1 tag and just say my first web application. And then we can also do like an h4 tag, and we can say this web application uses Python Flask. And then we can have our hello. So here, this web application, my first web application, this web application uses Python Flask, and then it says hello, whatever, right? And so next, CSS file, which is going to link to my website. And so the first thing I'm going to do in order to do that is I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it static. And then inside that folder, I'm going to make a new file called style.css. And so this is a CSS file, and we can add our CSS code to this file. But right now it's not going to get referenced because there's no reference to this in index.html. And so what we need to do is we need to put the following code inside of our heading tag. And so right underneath where we have our viewpoint, see how we have link href, or here it just says style sheet, and then it's called href. So we don't have a style sheet here. And so what we need to do is we need to reference this style sheet. And the way you're going to do that is by doing double curly brackets. And that's because we are going to use kind of that like Python Flask code that we were using in the last video. And so we are going to use a function called URL_for, and then I'm going to say static because it's going to be in the static folder, comma, and then I'm going to say file name equals, and then style.css, close parenthesis, close curly brackets, and that should be good. And so when I run this, everything should look the same for now. And then obviously once we put some style in here, the CSS should show up. And so now for our style.css, let's add some of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reference the body tag, and then I'm going to open curly bracket. And inside the open curly bracket, I can change the font. So I'm going to say font family, and let's just set it to Tahoma. Let's give it a color. What do we want to make our font color? We can do green. And always use semicolons at the end of your statements in your CSS. Now notice replit, like their graphical user interface here, shows us a little color option here, and I can like change my font color based on that. And so I can select like, you know, whatever color I want here. So let's make it like a dark green or something like this. And so now this is, it gives the hexadecimal color value for that particular color that I selected. And then I'm going to select a background color. So that's background hyphen color. And then for this one, let me just say blue for now. And then I can go in and change it. And so let's change it to like a really, let's change it to like a, maybe like a light gray or something like that. Oops, I forgot to click enter. And so now if I stop and I run this again, then our CSS file is going to register so that we can change the style of our web page. And so now if I want to, change H1 or whatever, I can do that as well. So I can change like my header, and I can put whatever I want inside of here, etc., etc. But I'm not going to show you all of the style stuff. This is an easy Google search to kind of just like play around with CSS. You can also find a lot of CSS files for free out there that you can just copy and use. So definitely Google search for CSS stuff, because I don't know all of it, because it's just one thing that's like really easy to Google search. All right, and so the other thing I want to mention, right now the web page looks kind of funny because it just says hello, comma, and then nothing. And that is because in the last video, we passed in a name parameter when we type in a name in our URL bar. However, we don't have anything passed in when we just have like the Hello World basic app. And so in this case, let's also pass in a name variable in here. But in this case, I'm going to just say name is world, something like that. Let me actually use single quotes just for consistency. But note that Python, you can either use double quotes or single quotes, and they act the same way. And so now when I run this, X or name here inside of my HTML template, which is here, will be name or world at first. And then if I give this a parameter, so anything else, then it will change to hello Lauren or something like that. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to talk about how to use forms in HTML in order to incorporate that with Flask to get user input instead of only having the user input values in the URL bar.